Satu was a hopeless fool who fell in love with a stunning princess from another world and accidentally married her. However, when his first kiss awakens his powers as a hero, he discovers he must conquer 5 beautiful princesses to become the strongest, so he embarks on a wild, devilish quest to save the world. It all started one night when Satu was snooping around in the forest until he was distracted by a bright light that made him fall to the ground. When he recovered, he saw a beautiful princess named Haimey and her wise grandfather, Alabaster. 10 years have passed since the incident, and Haimey has become more attractive than Sweeney, with enormous assets. One day, while walking to school, Satu noticed a pair of rings hanging from his neck and had flashbacks to a time when she promised to marry him. As she looked at the rings, Haimey told him that his chances of getting married were less than his chances of a pretty girl calling him dad. Later, Haimey invited him to a nighttime festival where she planned to confess her feelings. But after they spend some time together, Haimey tells him she's moving away from the city, and his heart shatters into a million pieces at the realization that he might never see her again. Minutes later, a depressed Satu lies on his bed, but he's jolted out of bed when he sees a bright light in the forest. He races over and finds Haimey, who tells him she's returning to her world to get married because she's a princess. Then she disappears into the light, but Satu refuses to accept this ending and follows her. When he arrives, he's shocked to find the wedding ceremony already underway. But before he can stop it, a dark beast from the abyss attacks the castle. As everyone runs for their lives, Alabaster intervenes to contain the situation. But despite being a powerful sage, he ends up being thrown around like trash. When he discovers that the dark beast can only be defeated by the rings hanging on Haimey's chest, he yells at her to give them to Mars. Haimey has a husband assigned to her, but she gives him to Satu and kisses him instead. When he places his hands on a sword, it glows, and he uses his greatest strength to slice the dark beast in half. However, he faints from the energy drain and awakens the next day to find Haimey sitting beside him. He blushes, remembering that she kissed him because it means she loves him, but Haimey tells him she only did it because her assigned husband was useless. Later that day, Satu presents himself to the people of the Nokana kingdom, where he is hailed as a hero who will save them. After overcoming his stage fright, he prepares to take a dip in the royal hot springs, only for Haimey to appear and join him. When she enters, she apologizes to Satu for leaving the responsibility of the world on his shoulders, but Satu ignores her because he would do anything to be intimate with her. He promises to stay in this world and protect it, especially since yesterday's monster was after Haimey's life. Upon hearing this, Haimey is transported back to the past and realizes that Satu has always been her hero. She agrees to stay by his side, but warns that her legs will remain closed until she sees who he truly is. Satu is relieved to hear this and is pleased that she chose him even though he was driven by impulse. He also admits that he's liked her for a long time, though Haimey tries to portray their feelings as platonic. However, before Haimey can see what's in his suitcase, the emergency alarm sounds outside, and a group of dark beasts attacks the kingdom. Immediately, Satu and Haimey rush to find out what's happening, and after learning about the monsters outside, he grabs a weapon to fight. But before they leave, Haimey kisses him first to increase his strength for combat, and with that, Satu leads the attack. Outside, a dark beast attempts to attack a maid, but Satu appears and slices it in half, surprised that she hasn't fainted yet. Alabaster tells him it's because of the kiss he shared with Haimey, and reveals that his bond with Haimey translates into power. With this in mind, Satu realizes he needs to lead Haimey to strike the city before she can reach her full potential, but he's pulled from his thoughts when a dark knight appears above him. Once the dark knight realizes Satu wields the king's ring, he descends to confront him, but Satu charges blindly, ignoring Alabaster's warnings to fall back. As a result, he crashes into a wall, so he finally listens to Alabaster and flees. As he flees, the dark knight sends dark beasts after him, but Alabaster cuts them down with his magic, only to be surprised when the dark knight appears in his escape route. Before things get worse, Mars appears, powers up the dark knight, and leads to another exit where Satu meets Haimey. They all leave the kingdom in a carriage, and on the way, Satu thanks Mars for all his help. Curious, he asks if the kingdom will be safe, and Alabaster explains that the dark beast will leave since they are after the ring, the king, and the rings. When Alabaster mentions that defeating the dark knight will be difficult, Satu feels it's his responsibility to fight him, but Alabaster makes it clear they're running away because he isn't strong enough. He says Satu only has a fraction of his power, and reveals that he'll need to obtain the remaining 4 rings from the other princesses. Hearing this, Satu panics because it means he'll have to marry 4 other attractive girls, while Haimey becomes jealous because she doesn't like to share. Later that afternoon, they arrive at an inn, and since there are only 2 rooms available, Satu is forced to share one with Haimey. Before departing, Alabaster recounts the story of the first Ring King, who existed hundreds of years ago when the world was on the brink of being consumed by darkness. Over time, many nations were shrouded in the shadow of death and lost, so the Ring King sought to dispel the darkness by forging 5 rings imbued with magic. The 5 rings were the Ring of Light and the 4 elements, and he used them to wage a fierce battle where he defeated the King of the Abyss and sealed him away. As time passed, the Ring King married 5 princesses, and each ring was passed down through generations within 5 different nations. Now, the King of the Abyss has been revived, and Alabaster fears he is already regaining his power, because if he does, it will be game over. He states that the Ring King's duty is to obtain all all 5 princesses' rings and use their power to seal the abyss. After the talk, Haimey joins Satu in bed and is shocked to notice all the bruises on his back. Her mood shifts as she feels her reckless decision is to blame for her condition, so she runs off to get some fresh air. Satu follows her, but even after searching the inn, he can't find her. Instead, he bumps into Mars, who immediately assumes they're having bedroom trouble, but Satu becomes defensive and denies it. Mars then expresses his gratitude to Satu for showing the burden he carried, because he never wanted to be the Ring King. He praises Satu for leaving his world behind because of Haimey, and realizes she must be very precious to him. So he points out the direction Haimey went and takes his leave. When Satu finally finds her, he tells her that he loves her so much and that he joined her in this world because he wants to be here. He also tells her not to feel responsible for what happens to her, and Haimey smiles, seeing that he has such a clear resolve. As for her resolve is wavering because she was willing to accept marrying a stranger to protect this world, and now she's confused since Satu has appeared. She admits that she's in love with him, but she doesn't like that he's meeting other princesses and having his baby doll eaten. Hearing this, Satu apologizes for being insensitive, but Haimey tells him it's okay and reveals that she's ready to fulfill her duty to him as his wife. However, when they reach the bedroom, the couple freezes up because they're both too shy to make a move. After a while, Satu finally works up the courage and helps Haimey onto the bed, but he gets flustered because she's too much for him. So he tells her to postpone their intimate session until he's ready, and she agrees. Finally, she gives him a goodnight kiss, but the next morning she looks tired because she didn't get to sleep in the same bed with Satu. Alabaster advises them to strengthen their bond, but Haimey believes that all that will become long and hard is her day ahead. Before leaving the inn, Mars gives the newlyweds a royal cloak so they don't draw too much attention with their otherworldly attire. Alabaster reveals that their next destination is the hidden elven village called Romka, and since its women are so attractive, the eccentric sage looks forward to getting there quickly. Jealous, Haimey reminds Satu that she is his wife, warning him that any mischief with a spoiled, wicked elf is worth divorce. Upon arriving in Romka, they find the village surrounded by a storm wall that blocks outsiders. Alabaster finds it odd that the village is like this because the last time he was here, there was no storm wall. Suddenly, a bear appears, and Satu thinks it would be a great idea to befriend it, but after the bear opens its mouth, it joins the others in running. They are soon trapped with nowhere else to go, but thanks to some elves, they manage to avoid being eaten. Alabaster thanks them for their help, and then Satu introduces himself as the Ring King and asks to see his princess. The mood of both elves changes after hearing Satu's request, but they agree to guide him to their sacred palace. Upon arriving there, Satu finds Nefrightes, the princess, hiding behind her throne, and he quickly realizes that she is afraid of him. Once she gathers the courage to speak, she asks Satu if he is married to Haimey, and when he admits it, she gets scared and runs away, thinking he has already slept with Haimey. As Satu processes what has just happened, Nefrightes' brother, Jade, appears and apologizes for having a sister imprisoned. He introduces himself as the eldest son of the former Wind King of Romka, and has his guards surround Satu when he realizes she is the Ring King. While the others wonder what is going on, Jade promises to host them properly, but insists on putting Satu in custody for a while. Meanwhile, he detains Satu in his cellar and breaks down at the thought of his sister's innocence in bed with him. He calls Nefrightes an angel, emphasizing that she hasn't left the castle or the borders of her nation for certain reasons, and because she's 54, he considers it too soon for her to marry. He also promises to watch her grow into a mature woman and condemns Satu to wait 8 decades before he can have her. As he leaves, Satu is terrified because staying there means he'll die without ever using his V-card. Meanwhile, Jade is questioned by a guard about his actions, and he reveals that he doesn't care about the Ring King because he believes his nation will be safe as long as the Tempest Wall exists. Approximately 3 days later, Satu is exhausted from his relentless goose killing, but he finds another reason to keep going when a sexy elf named Peridot appears in his cell. She pins him to the bed and covers his mouth, asking him what he hopes to achieve by obtaining all 5 rings. Deep down, he believes Satu wants to be powerful enough to sleep with all the hot elves, but he's shocked to discover that Satu is only interested in sleeping with his beloved. As a result, Peridot takes an interest in him, frees him from her basement, and leads him to where the other ring is kept. Upon arriving there, he finds the wind ring on the petrified bodies of the kingdom's former king and queen, but before he can ask why Nefrightes doesn't have it, Peridot drags him aside to keep him out of sight. Just then, Nefrightes enters the temple and prays to her parents, vowing never to join Satu outside the kingdom. Curious, Satu asks about the statues and is shocked to learn they are the reason behind the Tempest Wall. He ends up being discovered by Nefrightes, who faints the moment she sees him, but he catches her before she can hit the ground. Soon, Jade learns that Nefrightes has disappeared and becomes alarmed, thinking Satu might be involved. Meanwhile, Satu sits alone beside the sleeping Nefrightes, waiting for her to wake up because earlier, Peridot told him to find a way to convince the princess to take their side. While Nefrightes sleeps, Satu's worldly desires awaken before he can even put anything in her mouth, but Nefrightes is startled when she sees him up close. Jade checks the basement and realizes Satu is gone. She immediately suspects Satu was involved in Nefrightes' disappearance, only to be shocked when Peridot arrives. arrives and tells her that Satu has run away with Nefrightes. Jade breaks down at the thought of Nefrightes being defiled by Satu, but when she calms down, she begins to suspect Peridot and promises to search her lair. Meanwhile, Nefrightes becomes embarrassed because she vomited on her clothes and Satu helped her wash them. As they talk, Satu notices Nefrightes' sudden interest in her world and finds it odd because she isn't the type to go out. But Nefrightes admits that she usually reads the books Jade gives her, and for her, reading those books is fun, especially because it allows her to create mental images of what the outside world looks like. After that, Satu revealed that he didn't come to this world because of special powers, but because he didn't want to be separated from the woman he loved. Hearing this, Nefrightes begins to see him differently, so she throws herself at him and promises to join him in his world someday. But in her excitement, she forgets how close they are, and when she sees Satu watching her scheme, her face turns red. Curious, Satu asks why she's never come out despite being so interested in other worlds. But before she can answer, Jade appears outside and calls out to her. Satu tells her that she doesn't have to be forced to be his wife, and it's up to her to decide whether she wants to be with him or not. Nefrightes then tries to reason with her brother so they're all on the same page. Outside, Nefrightes tries to convince Jade that Satu is a good man, but Jade refuses to listen because she believes the Wind Ring shouldn't abandon its petrified parents. When Nefrightes argues that she'll have to inherit it someday, Jade scolds her, saying she's not asking for her opinion. Nefrightes' zeal to convince him dies, and she ends up joining his side instead. Now, Satu faces Jade alone, who is about to judge him for escaping from prison. However, Peridot appears and takes the blame for freeing him, but Jade agrees to look the other way as long as she keeps an eye on Satu. Later, Satu encounters Haimey, who is a little jealous that he managed to get close to Nefrightes. When Satu notices this, Peridot appears and introduces herself as the oldest elf in Romka. Realizing she is several centuries old, Satu asks her about the appearance of Nefrightes, and she agrees to give them a history lesson about how the kingdom of Romka became shrouded in a wall of tempest. In the past, Nefrightes and Jade's mother was not the firstborn destined to inherit the Wind Ring because she had an older sister. To prevent the ring from leaving the kingdom, there was a rule that required princesses to marry someone from their own kingdom. However, the eldest princess fell in love with a human traveler and was believed to have intended to steal the Wind Ring from the very beginning. This caused various rumors to spread among the people, and before long, everyone was convinced of the stranger's wickedness, especially as the princess's love for him grew stronger. But then, he suddenly stopped appearing before the princess, and Peridot couldn't explain what had caused his disappearance. His disappearance filled the princess with despair. She abandoned the kingdom after cursing it to be swallowed by the abyss. The curse weighed heavily on the elven race because of their long lifespans, and as the years passed, the people became increasingly consumed by fear. Nefrightes' parents inherited the Wind Ring. They sacrificed themselves to create a wind barrier around the kingdom for protection. But before that, Nefrightes' mother made her daughter promise never to venture beyond the wind wall, leading her to become a reclusive princess. Now, Nefrightes remembers the promise she made to her mother and weeps because she is gone. The next day, Alabaster tells Satu to ignore the Wind Ring for now and find the other princesses because they are running out of time. Although Satu knows, she feels bad about leaving since Nefrightes was scolded because of her. Meanwhile, Jade receives a report from a guard and learns that a group of dark beasts have managed to breach the Tempest Wall. Shocked, Jade is frustrated that the barrier her parents sacrificed their lives to build is being attacked by monsters. Meanwhile, Satu, preparing to leave Romka, notices the breach and sees the dark beasts heading for the palace. He immediately cancels his trip and allows Haimey to kiss him so he will be powerful enough to fight. As dark beasts terrorize the citizens, Peridot tells Nefrightes about the breach, but the imprisoned princess decides to stay inside, believing her brother will handle the situation. Meanwhile, a dark knight enters Romka's temple and attempts to steal the wind rings from the petrified couple, but he is interrupted when Jade appears. Seeing that the dark knight is after the wind rings, Jade attacks him because the kingdom will lose its storm wall if the rings disappear, but she is countered and thrown to the ground like trash. However, he gets up and prepares to fight again, despite knowing his chances of winning are almost non-existent. When the dark knight attacks again, Jade takes a defensive stance to block him, but Alabaster arrives with the others and saves him. Instead of thanking him, Jade wonders why Satu returned, but Satu tells her it's not to save face. He says he's there because the kingdom is home to the Nefrightes, and he wants to protect it. He then activates the ring's power and joins forces with Mars to fight, but despite his immense power, the Dark Knight easily defeats him. Deep down, Haimey knows that the power boost he gave him earlier wasn't enough, so he rushes to Nefrightes' room and tries to ask for his help. Meanwhile, Alabaster advises Satu to retreat because the Dark Knight is too strong, but Satu refuses because the Wind Ring is in danger. Suddenly, Peridot appears and tells her that Haimey is trying to convince Nefrightes to help him. Shocked, Jade wonders why Haimey is doing this, and Peridot tells him it's because Haimey cares deeply for him. She then joins him in battle and uses her wind magic to buy Haimey time. Haimey, meanwhile, manages to convince Nefrightes to marry Satu. Satu then arrives at the Temple of Romka to shatter the petrified bodies of his parents and obtain the wind rings. Before Jade can process what's about to happen, Haimey helps Nefrightes destroy the statue, causing the Tempest Wall protecting the kingdom to dissolve. Without hesitation, Nefrightes kisses Satu and gives him the wind ring, allowing him to manipulate the air outside the palace and eliminate all the dark beasts outside. After that, Satu charges at the Dark Knight, but on the way, the Dark Knight fires a gust of wind at him. However, Satu finds it strange that he can now manipulate the enemy's wind attack, so he dispels it and defeats the Dark Knight. But he faints from using too much magic and wakes up the next day to find Haimey in his bed. Soon, a royal named Smaragdi enters their chambers and thanks them for saving the kingdom from the dark beasts. Confused, Satu asks who she is, and Alabaster reveals that she is the older sister of the previous queen. Upon hearing this, Haimey realizes that Smaragdi was the princess who fled the country after cursing it. Curious, Satu asks what she is doing there, but Peridot reminds him that she was the one behind the mask of the Dark Knight. Although it all seems shocking to Satu, it begins to make sense when Peridot shows him the ring that controlled Smaragdi. Smaragdi confesses that she obtained it after fleeing the kingdom. When her heart was filled with despair at having lost the man she loved, as she wandered, the king of the abyss took advantage of her grief and lured her to retrieve the Ring of Dark Wind, which transformed her into the Dark Knight. Currently, Satu. He's annoyed that he has so little information about the Abyss King. Then Peridot tells him that the Abyss King was defeated by the previous Ring King and sealed away in Vanna, a place far to the north. Alabaster chimes in, adding that although no one has seen the Abyss King, he creates Dark Knights using his black rings and sends them out to attack innocent people. Upon hearing this, Satu realizes he needs to hurry to get the other rings, but he's forced to rest since he hasn't fully recovered. That night, he's at the hot springs with both princesses fighting over who will be the first to get some action. Haimey lies, saying that Satu has already performed oral sex on her several times to make Nefrightes jealous. But Peridot overhears and becomes interested in seeing how vigorously Satu performs. She focuses on Haimey and sits down to watch her live during the performance. But Satu pushes Haimey away, claiming he doesn't want to be pressured into performing oral sex. However, he ends up showing everyone what he's got down there, and Nefrightes is temporarily blinded. Meanwhile, Alabaster encounters Smaragdi and gives her a pendant belonging to her former lover, who had run away. He tells her that her ex is alive and that he left because he couldn't bear to see her scrutinized by her people because of him. Smaragdi is thrilled to hear this, but the next day, after Alabaster leaves, she realizes that the wise old man was her ex all along. A few days later, Satu somehow appears in their world, and Haimey prepares a delicious meal for him when he returns home. When she asks him if he'd like to eat before or after making the meal, Satu's outfit mysteriously vanishes, and he throws Haimey into her room to eat her onesie. However, after knocking her onto the bed, Nefrightes switches places with Haimey, and Haimey is forced to watch, but she wakes up with a start and realizes it was all a nightmare. After that, she meets Satu for breakfast, and Alabaster reveals that they should visit the Land of Water, where the dragons reside. Meanwhile, Nefrightes chokes on Satu's food. Satu checks on her to make sure she's alright. While he does this, Haimey gets jealous because Nefrightes has been getting all of Satu's attention lately, so she calls him over to see if he can check on her. To her surprise, Satu ignores her and tells her to help herself, and she collapses. When Satu realizes this, she follows her, but is surprised to find a moving city on the other side of the forest. When Alabaster arrives, she reveals that the moving city is the Land of Fire, called Nidakita, a nation filled with wandering knights and cat people. Since it's rare to encounter a moving city, Alabaster suggests postponing their journey to the Land of Water so they can meet the Fire Princess. However, Mars's mood changes after hearing this, and Satu suspects there might be someone she wanted to see up north. Upon arriving at the moving city, Nefrightes' inner nerd lights up, and she launches into an unprompted recounting of the cat people's war, simply to see their market. Alabaster praises her for nearly matching his knowledge, but then gets carried away and launches into another lecture on how the moving city was built. Unfortunately for him, Haimey and Nefrightes run off to escape their lesson. Lost and adventurous, Nefrightes continues her exploration, but thankfully, Haimey has her on a leash. Just being caught in the gaze of many felines causes Nefrightes to vomit a rainbow. She rejects the idea that cats are cute and insists that elves deserve the title. Suddenly, one of the cats asks what's wrong, and they admit they got separated from their crew, so she advises them to head to the arena. Meanwhile, Satu almost loses it when he realizes the girls have left, but he calms down when he notices many female citizens of Nidakita staring at him. Mars then explains that cat people value the most manly men with large endowments, so Satu tries to play it cool, hoping his fake it till you make it act will work, but they see right through him and go straight for Mars. The girls fall in love with Mars when he asks if they can touch his sword, so, out of pity, he modestly tells them to check out Satu. However, they call him Skinny, a silly fellow with a short appendage, shattering what little confidence their brother had left. Mars then asks where they can meet the princess, and the cat people lead them to the arena, thinking they've come to court her like so many others. Meanwhile, outside the arena, Haimey gives Nefrightes a snack and cuddles her. Nefrightes says she feels like she's with her parents because of how Haimey and Satu are looking after her, but Haimey dismisses that thought since Nefrightes is much older than them. Nefrightes then confirms Haimey's jealousy every time Satu adores her, and marvels at Haimey's feelings for him. He admits that his situation is different as he admires Satu, but even if he falls for him. He's unsure if his feelings are reciprocated. Suddenly, a contender is eliminated from the arena, and coincidentally, Satu and the others arrive. Haimey rushes to warn them that the place holds bad news, but the cat girls announce that if they want to woo the princess, they need to enter the arena. They enter and watch as Grunart stabs another contender. She notices Satu's rings and realizes he is the Ring King, asking him if he is strong. Stunned by her mere presence, Satu's brain struggles to process her words, but he barely manages to dodge her sword strike before knocking him unconscious with the hilt of his practice sword. Before leaving, Grunart mocks his weakness, saying she had expected better, and tells him he can challenge her again if he wishes, though he should remember she has many suitors. Later, Satu trains with Mars to learn the fundamentals of swordsmanship, so he can challenge Grunart again. During training, a flashback explains that the Fire Princess's husband must be strong, and since the princess is stronger than everyone in her tribe, she began searching for contenders from all the races of the world. After hearing Grunart's story, Satu wonders if this could be real life, and Alabaster tells him that he can't win with a sword, but it's possible if he uses the rings. Satu feels that using magic wouldn't be fair, but he's told that it counts because magic is an extension of oneself. Later, he sees Grunart easily defeat another opponent and thinks about it in the training room. Haimey appears, offers him her lap as a pillow, and helps him relax by stroking his head. Nefrightes sees them and overhears their conversation. After Satu calms down, Haimey tells him it's okay to be weak and that he only needs the power of the ring, so there's no need to push himself to become stronger. Although Satu agrees, he feels it will make him seem uncool, but Haimey says it's okay to be a little cool. She likes him that way. Then Alabaster appears, saying it's time for magic training, so Satu goes off to train. After many failed attempts, he heads to a public sauna with Mars. There, Mars praises him for his diligence in sword training, and Satu is surprised to learn that Mars is highly skilled in martial arts. Mars explains that those born to the Emperor must excel in intelligence and swordsmanship, and both his father and older brother are far more accomplished than he is. Curious, Satu asks if Mars could defeat Grunart if she were the Ring King, but Mars admits that he could still lose to her in a pure sword fight. As they watch others being scrubbed, a pretty lady appears and asks if they would like to be cleansed, to which Satu mischievously agrees. Unfortunately, a huge brute appears and tears her poor skin to shreds. Shortly after, Grunart shows up and orders Satu to clean her up, but when he hesitates, she reminds him that he lost to her and that he should obey her. As Satu takes a handful of her attributes, he analyzes her body as if it were a supercar. Meanwhile, Grunart admits she's tired of the endless challenges and asks if he's ready. She says she wouldn't mind losing to him in their next match if it means fulfilling her duty. As he leaves, Satu declares that he's going to win, so she shouldn't be lenient with him. She accepts his bet. Later, Satu trains tirelessly with his sword, noticing that he acted rather clumsily. Satu wakes up to find Nefrightes smiling at him after helping him work on his sword. She compliments his abs, pretending she's just checking if he's okay with this constant training to defeat Princess Grunart. Nefrightes assures him that he can defeat Grunart if he uses the power of the ring, and no one will question it, as that is the ring's purpose. But Satu still considers it a trap. Even so, he thanks her for the encouragement and gets out of bed, ignoring her attempts to take his sword. Later, Mars trains Satu and notices great improvement in her swordsmanship. But when Satu asks if she can land a hit on Grunart, Mars disagrees, saying that she is of a different race. If Satu could follow in her footsteps, then there would be a 1 in a million chance of striking her. Mars advises her to use the ring to make things easier, but Satu stubbornly refuses and continues training. Meanwhile, as Haimey observes, she overhears 2 maids saying that Grunart is very much in love with Satu and has allowed her to park her car in her garage. Nervous, Haimey overreacts and then collapses on her bed after realizing that the cat tribe's logic wasn't so profound. Even so, as she imagines Satu exploring her attributes, Haimey quickly dismisses the thought and puts it aside, but admits she won't be able to avoid it for much longer. The day arrives to challenge Grunart, and as Satu prepares to fight her, everyone acknowledges and applauds him, except Haimey. She watches intently, grappling with the belief that Satu only wants princesses for their rings. Meanwhile, a challenger who had previously lost to Grunart finds a black ring that summons him. The moment he touches it, he is possessed and rages back into the arena to fight. The guards try to block him, but he breaks through and charges straight at Satu to discourage him. Fortunately, Grunart stops his attack, but the possessed knight summons abyssal monsters into the arena. At that moment, the cat people spring into action, some fighting the monsters while others evacuate the crowd. Facing the knight, Grunart tries to attack him, but his weapon melts. Satu follows, wielding his wind-muffled wooden sword, but is repelled like a fly. Grunart rushes to him and assures him that he will take care of it, but Satu warns him that it is dangerous, since his weapon didn't work. After that, she refuses to give up, insisting that it is her duty to protect those weaker than herself, including him. Determined, Satu promises to lure the possessed knight to give him a chance. She agrees, and he puts his plan into action by yelling at the knight to use his ring. The abyssal knight charges and unleashes flames at Satu, but he withstands the heat. At the last moment, he activates the wind ring, deflecting the fire and sending the knight flying. Grunart immediately follows, disarming him before he can throw his own sword at Satu, telling him to deliver the final blow. With the help of the elite ring, he cuts the knight, causing the black ring to fall and the knight to regain consciousness. After quelling the chaos, Granart tells Satu that she sees his potential and is considering making him her husband. But Satu surprises her by rejecting pity and promising instead to make her acknowledge him in a match and under her sheets. Soon, their duel begins, and Granart completely overpowers Satu. Midway through the fight, she warns him that he will lose unless he uses the rings. Meanwhile, Nefrightes notices that Haimey still isn't cheering and tells her that Satu is fighting for her. Satu then tells Granart that he doesn't want to use the ring's power because it's borrowed, especially since he wants to look cool for Haimey. Hearing this, Haimey finally cheers him on and promises to let him have his fun if he will. Cheers for Granart, and he wins. Satu is enraged upon hearing this, but enters a trance where the rings speak to him, offering to reveal Granart's movements and help him fight. Satu accepts, and when Granart charges forward, she suddenly vanishes from his sight. However, thanks to the rings, he realizes she's above him and counterattacks in midair. When he's declared the winner, Granart kisses him, bestows upon him her ring, and acknowledges him as her husband, calling him the first man to defeat her. She even tells him to make plans with her, but to her surprise, Satu refuses. When she asks him why, he reminds her that Haimey already promised to let him have his way with her. Then after that, he heads straight to the bedroom to applaud her, but ends up fainting after feeling Haimey's attributes. The next morning, Haimey mocks Satu for her performance, but Nefrightes attacks her. Peridot points out that she ran out of energy before the main event, and to make matters worse, Granart reveals that he also watched the entire show. That night, the citizens of Nidakita hold a banquet, and Granart announces that they will once again serve under the Ring King. Satu tries to confess to Granart that his victory wasn't entirely his own, but she interrupts him, saying he never would have had the chance if he'd given up earlier, so she thanks him instead. Meanwhile, Haimey, watching them, gets jealous and ends up fainting after finding happiness in a bottle of liquor. Satu takes her inside, but just as he's about to leave, she stops him, pleading with him to calm down. He tells her that she made him happy when she cheered him up, and then shyly admits that he should postpone the idea of having children until they return to their world. She accepts and thanks him for encouraging her. So as a reward, she gives him a blank check, saying she'll do whatever he asks, and of course, the brother plays with her assets. Granart, who has been watching from the sidelines, finally loses patience with how slow Satu is. Frustrated, she lunges at him and tells him about having children, and that's when the other princesses realize she's a bit off her rocker, so they knock her unconscious on the spot. The next day, the group arrives in Masa, the land of water, where Satu learns that Mars couldn't join them despite wanting to visit. Out of nowhere, a girl runs up to Satu after hearing that he is the ring's hero. She gives him flowers, kisses him, and a ring appears on her finger, signifying that he has just married the princess of the fourth ring. She laughs at having tricked him, and then introduces herself as Safir, the maiden of the water ring. After revealing her prank and greeting the great sage, Safir calls Satu the king of her city and offers to show him around, warning him that if he doesn't act quickly, his city will perish. Before they can continue, a commander of the Imperial Knights appears and orders Safir to return to the palace, but she refuses, declaring that she is already married to Satu, the Ring King. Satu's group to follow him, and on their way, they notice countless guards from the Gisarus Empire stationed throughout the city. Satu learns that the commander is Zudur, the first prince of Gisarus and older brother of Mars, a man known for subjugating many nations. Safir scoffs and calls the Empire an occupying force that claims to protect them from the monsters of the Abyss. Granart adds that the soldiers are likely gathering support to oppose the resurrection of the Abyss King. As they arrive at the palace, a monster suddenly erupts from the ground. Safir smiles, mocking the oracle's prediction at the palace for being right once again. The monster attacks Satu, but with Granart's warning, she uses the ring's powers to kill it. Witnessing the feat, Zudur admits that old legends are not fairy tales. Shortly afterwards, Satu and her group are welcomed into the palace. But just as Safir tells her father that she has given her ring to Satu, the oracle interrupts. She declares that Safir has made a grave mistake, just as she foretold, and brought ruin upon her land. The king immediately becomes frantic, and the oracle escorts him away. Left behind, Safir explains that her father was once a great king, but now he trusts the oracle entirely. Her younger twin sister, Safira, arrives after hearing that Safir married Satu. She berates her sister for choosing such a plain-looking husband. Granart tries to defend Satu, but only ends up insulting him further, driving him mad trying to save the situation. Safir insists that she only married Satu so that Safira wouldn't have to. At that moment, Mars speaks, reminding Safir of the promise she once made. She interrupts him, saying she doesn't want to hear his voice. Hurt, Mars storms off. Safir explains to the others that Mars and Safira once swore their love to each other. Surprised that they didn't know this, she begins to recount the history of Masa and the Gisarus Empire. Long ago, the Gisarus invaded Masa after exhausting their own territories, and, unable to win outright, they changed tactics, sending Mars as a diplomat to infiltrate and learn the inner workings of the land. During that time, Mars did not act as ordered. Rather, he fell in love with Safira and vowed to return for her. However, the Empire summoned him again and ordered him to become the Ring King. Had everything gone according to plan, he might have married Safira, but he abandoned her for duty and passed the crown on to another. Not long after, the oracle appeared, and her predictions began to come true. The king took her to to his side, and soon after, Gizerus soldiers filled the streets. Currently, Mars pursues Safir, telling her that his feelings have not changed. He confesses that he abandoned the role of Ring King because he felt unworthy, but Safir, impassive, says she no longer understands and leaves. Elsewhere, Satu begins to suspect that the Oracle is connected to the Empire. Safir agrees, but says they need proof to expose her. At that very moment, the Oracle secretly orders assassins to awaken Satu and steal his rings, claiming it is for the ruler's sake. The assassins sneak into Satu's room, consumed by jealousy, only to discover that Grenard has vanished. Suddenly, he ambushes them, knocking them all unconscious, and immediately suspects the Oracle sent them. Although they escape using smoke, Grenard deduces from their movements that they are from the Empire. The next morning, he informs Satu, and as they walk toward the sunbathing area, an assassin misses an arrow aimed at him, but Alabaster stops it unnoticed. As the princesses, except for Grenard, glide toward the water, Alabaster explains that dragon people need to sunbathe to regulate their temperature. Meanwhile, the cat princess brazenly glares at Satu and tells her directly that she wants to consummate their marriage that night. Unfortunately for her, Haimey overhears and immediately stops Satu, declaring that she herself is first in line. Grenard disagrees with Haimey's claimed first place, arguing that the order should be determined by their grip. As the two argue, Nefrightes sneaks up behind them to gain the upper hand, but Safir interrupts, strutting around in a swimsuit that violates every rule in the book. The other girls immediately complain about his outfit, but Safir shrugs, reminding them that it's his garden and that he often runs around here displaying his assets. After diffusing the argument, Safir warns Satu not to let his guard down, as the Oracle will continue trying to get rid of him. Later that day, Satu finds Mars blaming himself for Masa's current state. Satu asks why he didn't become the Ring King, and Mars confesses that the burden felt too heavy. Unsatisfied, Satu says that Mars should have done it himself, especially since his relationship with Safir was at stake. Haimey's face when she saw Satu appear, and the fact that he opposed their wedding was reason enough for him to step aside. He admits that he is too weak to ignore people's feelings, unlike Satu, who was willing to throw everything away for Haimey's love. Mars considers himself a failure and declares that Satu is the true incarnation of the Ring King. That night, Mars begs Zuder to stop interfering with Masa. Zuder refuses, reminding him that it was his father's decision to send reinforcements. She also warns Mars that he has not yet been forgiven for disobeying the order to become the Ring King, and therefore, he must continue to report to the Empire or risk being left homeless and abandoned. At the meeting, the Oracle confronts Mars privately. She orders him to steal the rings from Satu, claiming it is his father's will. She says the only reason he has been by Satu's side is to gain his trust so he can betray him. Finally, she reveals that in 3 days, an army of monsters will attack Masa, and Mars should seize that opportunity to resurrect the Ring King. Only when Mars rectifies his mistake will the Emperor forgive him, and only then will he be able to win the heart of the princess he loves. But after that happens, he must kill Satu, the foreign entity in his world. The Oracle gives him an ancient sword said to twist and distort the flow of magic, stating that the Ring King will be unable to defeat him with it. As she departs, she tells him she will be waiting for him to return with the rings to the Empire. The next morning, Mars wonders what he should do and recalls the Emperor's words that his only value lies in being his son. Lost in thought, he wanders through the garden, oblivious to a princess sunbathing by the pool. When she spots him, she runs away as if she's been tricked, breaking his heart even more. Depressed, Mars succumbs to despair and submits to the enchanted sword's will. Later, Zuder holds a meeting at the palace, outlining the strategy he's devised against the monsters the Oracle foretold. He orders Satu to keep watch over the palace, and once the meeting concludes, Satu leaves with the princesses following closely behind. Haimey kisses him to increase the power of his ring, with Grenard and Nefrightes quickly following suit. Meanwhile, on the riverbanks, soldiers fight desperately against monsters, and at the palace, a massive abyssal creature emerges from the waterfall. As Satu prepares to face it, Mars suddenly attacks him with the enchanted weapon. Thanks to Alabaster's warning, Satu narrowly avoids decapitation. At the same instant, another monster appears, forcing Alabaster to face it alone. As Satu battles Mars, despite his efforts, Mars quickly overpowers him. Realizing that Mars is not in his right mind, Satu begs Alabaster for guidance, but the old sage simply tells him to deal with it. As the battle rages on, Satu attempts to channel his ring's power, but Mars's sword extinguishes the magic. Immediately, the rings speak, labeling Mars a failure and urging Satu to do everything in his power to eliminate him. Satu refuses. Though unsure how to fight Mars without giving it his all, he soon realizes that he hasn't suffered a single serious injury despite Mars's superior swordsmanship. He concludes that Mars is still himself. While they duel, Safir runs to the other princesses and informs them that Mars is fighting Satu with the intention of stealing the rings. Alarmed, they rush to the balcony and watch as Mars charges for a decisive attack. To their surprise, Satu lowers his weapon and receives a cut on his shoulder. Seeing Mars hesitate, Satu concludes that his true self remains intact. Satu calls him a kind person and shocks everyone when Mars falls to his knees. Mars begs Satu to wake him, lamenting that the woman he loves has abandoned him. He considers himself a failure, unworthy of being a prince, and even sulks at having hurt Satu. But Satu, in turn, return thanks him, saying that it is thanks to Mars's kindness that he has come this far. Approaching him, Satu declares that he will become Mars's courage and that he needs him by his side to fulfill his role as king of the ring. At that moment, the ring commands Satu to destroy the gem embedded in the enchanted sword. Satu strikes and shatters her, unraveling the oracle's plan. The witch curses bitterly, calling all her pawns useless for failing to revive Satu. But before relief can come, the monsters break free from Alabaster's control and attack the princesses. Granart severs one tentacle, only for another to grab Safir and rape her more brutally than any succubus. Suddenly, the oracle appears before them, and they immediately conclude that she is the mastermind behind all the monster attacks. She takes Safir hostage, forcing Mars to take the initiative. Admitting that he once resented Satu, Mars shocks everyone by asking Safir to marry him. In that moment of surprise, the oracle lowers her guard, giving Satu the opportunity to sever the monster's tentacle and free Safir. Mars catches her in his arms, but she scolds him, saying it's unfair to propose when they're trapped in such a situation. Enraged, the oracle merges with the monster, transforming it into a hideous abomination to destroy them. But before he can attack, Safir calls Satu a fool for being too nice and then plants a kiss on his cheek. With that, the fourth ring activates, and Safir transforms into a colossal water dragon, devouring the monster as casually as if it were KFC. Horrified and realizing he didn't stand a chance, the oracle flees. Meanwhile, Satu nearly soils his underwear as he begs Safir to return to her human form. She agrees, but in the process, she loses her clothes, revealing the full extent of her magic. Mars then apologizes to Satu, and they shake hands, restoring their friendship once again. Later that day, the king addresses Satu and his crew, thanking them for saving his city. He informs them that he will lend his strength to fight the Abyss King. He also thanks the princesses for helping defend against the monsters, but promises to handle it himself, and if the nation ever needs their help again, he will ask them. The king then apologizes to Safir for the trouble he caused her and praises Satu, saying he is a good husband, but Safir objects, calling him a fool with magical power. Mars, on the other hand, introduces himself as the Knight of the Ring King and asks the ruler for Saphira's hand in marriage. The king apologizes for not noticing Saphira's pain sooner and accepts their union. While everyone rejoices at their reunion, he can't help but feel jealous and wish things had turned out this way for her. Mars then passes the torch to Satu, saying he's next. At first, Satu struggles to find the right words, but then realizes that the newlyweds have already consummated their marriage. As Zuder leaves the palace, Mars calls out to him. Zuder tells Mars that he will return to the imperial capital to uncover the truth behind the mystery linking the oracle and the monsters to the empire. He then tells Mars to come home someday and promises he will be waiting for her. Meanwhile, Emperor Gesarus speaks with the oracle after learning of his failure to capture Mars. She approaches him, attempting to persuade him to join forces with her so they can conquer many nations. But when she tries to delve into his desires, he instantly dismisses her. He informs her that he only entertained her because their interests once aligned, but now that's over. This is no longer the age of gods, he declares, but of men, and for that reason, he vows to exterminate anyone who interferes, be it the king of the abyss or the king of the ring. The four princesses corner Satu on his bed and demand that he loosen his grip and let them do the work for him. As they fight over who should take the lead, Satu, whose instinct is to shout with joy at living the dream, does a complete about-face by telling them that he is monogamous by nature. He might be pleased, but the others don't care and want him to use them as he sees fit to relieve his sausage. Instantly, Granart pounces on him like a tiger, revealing her attributes and asking if he'll take control. He then sees two other princesses waiting for him to park his truck in their garages, and as all the energy rushes into his pants, he swallows hard at the sight of Haim's disgust at him for trying to share his personal sausage with others. The next morning, Satu wakes up next to his wives, so he asks Haimey out on a date, informing her that they've been locked in the palace since arriving in the land of water. Upon hearing the idea, Nefrightes is delighted, thinking it will be a group date, but Satu dismisses her. To her surprise, Granart and Safir tell her to do whatever she wants without complaining about wanting to join them. A while later, while Haimey is showering, she marvels at the body wash Safir gave her and imagines Satu using the lather as baby oil. Shortly after, Satu meets with Alabaster for cash and gives him some extra, telling him to spend the night alone with Haimey. The couple sets off, and while they enjoy sightseeing around town, Granart and Nefrightes are stalking them. They also involve Safir in their plan, preventing her from relaxing. Unfortunately for Satu, the townspeople interrupt their date, showering her with gifts and asking for her autograph. Even so, Haimey enjoys not acting like the Ring King and simply acting her age, so she smiles and adores him passionately. Nefrightes observes them and admits she's jealous and sad, but Granart scolds her, reminding her that Satu came from a monogamous world. The cat lady calls monogamy a belief and notes that the laws of her world are different. Only beliefs can be changed. They watch as Satu takes Haimey to an amusement park, only to realize it's a bit too late and it's actually a lover's park. Safir, on the other hand, tells the others that the park has a tradition where couples who kiss there are bound together forever. Granart immediately gets angry because she doesn't want to be neglected, but Nefrightes calms her down. They take her down and watch to see if Satu will kiss Haimey. Unaware that they're being watched, Satu sees Haimey waiting for him to initiate the kiss, and as he approaches approaches her, he backs away, embarrassed and not wanting to do it in public. She then teases him, and he inwardly admits he's deeply in love with her. Seeing that there's no progress, the girls leave the couple, and Nefrightes laughs because it was her first time going out with friends. Safir then reminds her of the age difference between them, making Nefrightes feel like an old hag. Haimey notices the girls leaving but says nothing and continues her date with Satu. Finally, they sit down in the field and discuss how their worlds aren't so different. She laughs at the fact that she never thought her crush would turn out to be the hero. Shortly after, as they return to the palace, Haimey asks him why he asked her out on a date since they never rode one in their world, and he says it's because their feelings are finally mutual. Even so, they don't seem to have done anything typical of couples, so it might not count as a date. Satu then remembers that he wanted to spend time with her, and she seems happy about it, but tells him not to do it again because it means neglecting the other wives. Upon hearing Haimey admit she's happy to receive special treatment from him, Satu yells that it's exhausting and reminds her that she's his number one and he's not talking about order, calling her the one for him. Her heart flutters, but she feels a pang of sadness as she says things can't be this way, reminding him that all the other princesses are fulfilling their duties and determined to be with him, so she shouldn't neglect his feelings. Satu clenches his fist and tells her once again that she's the only one for him. He pins her against the wall and kisses her, holding her close as he does, and she kisses him back. After the kiss, he almost runs off to do the deed, but she stops him, saying she doesn't want to go back to the palace, reminding him that she's the one for him, and that sends blood flying to his little friend. Satu's mind starts racing as he wonders what to do, and an innkeeper who overhears them suggests they spend the night together at his inn. Embarrassed, Haimey declines the offer and suggests they return to the palace. They do as she suggests, and later that day, Alabaster and Mars have a meeting with Satu and the princesses, informing Safir that she must leave the land of water and follow Satu. Safir complains like a child who has to go to school and calls Satu the king of the harem, but she eventually agrees after teasing Safira. Later, Safir speaks to her sister privately and apologizes that Mars won't be staying with her, but like a proper adult, Safira understands. She assures Safir that she will protect their land, and then asks Safir to look after Mars on her journey. The twins hug, and Safir joins Satu on her journey to the land of Earth. Along the way, Nefrightes tells them what she knows so far, saying that the capital, Castle, is inhabited by dwarves. As they venture into the lands, Alabaster informs them that the dwarves were wiped out during the previous battle with the King of the Abyss, and the rest of them have isolated themselves deep underground until they are guided. Worried, they ask Alabaster how they plan to find the Earth Princess, but he tells them he has no idea. Later, they reach the mountain and hike to their destination. About 3 days later, they venture into the mountains again but see no sign of the dwarves. They begin to complain, but Satu assures them that Safir can handle any monster that crosses her path with her transformation. She bursts his bubble by telling him about the strain and the effects she suffers after each transformation, and he finds it hard to believe she's been paired with incompetent princesses. They continue their journey and pitch a tent later that night, but while the others sleep, Satu stays on guard with Alabaster and asks if there's any point in guarding the wedding rings, since the people of the Empire are planning to fight the Abyss King without trusting in the ring's power. Alabaster explains that the world is a vast place and not everyone believes in the same metrics, so it's to be expected. He then confesses that based on what he has heard so far, the power of the Abyss King is immeasurable, and he is not sure the Empire can stop him, so Satu has a role to play. The sage suspects there is a possibility that the fifth ring will come to them if the Abyss King's resurrection occurs as the legend foretells. After cheering Satu up and sending him to bed, Alabaster belittles himself. The next day, they arrive in Idanokan and see fossils of abyssal monsters scattered throughout the capital. The decapitated city appears to have been abandoned for hundreds of years, and while Haimey remarks that the bookworm dislikes silence, Nefrightes loves it. Safir, on the other hand, acts spoiled and asks Grunart to look after her, but Grunart throws her novels to keep her occupied while they search for the fifth princess. As they continue their search, Haimey senses an unknown presence nearby, but continues with the rest of the group after failing to locate the figure. They head to a throne room, and Satu is nearly frightened upon seeing a golem corpse, but Alabaster educates him, calling the golem a puppet that cannot function without magic. Nefrightes then informs them that he has learned the dwarves built a civilization powered by magic and were a race dedicated to perfecting their blacksmithing skills. They could wield magical machines as weapons and were more advanced than the other races. After searching extensively, the sage concludes they will have to go underground to find the ring. Suddenly, the puppet moves and attacks Satu, but he evades and counterattacks. Confused, he asks Alabaster why the puppet can move, but they realize it's putting on a ring of the abyss. The puppet complains on behalf of the dwarves, asking why their race was the only one wiped out, and vows to get rid of the others. With its ring, it erects a barrier, trapping Satu inside and keeping the others out. It immediately lunges at Satu, calling him an outsider who has no place in their world, but Satu refuses, saying that as long as it is Haimey's world, it is her duty to protect it. At that moment, Alabaster breaks through the barrier and leaps to kiss Satu. Instantly, his lightsabers glow and he charges at the puppet, but Satu creates another wall of earth to intercept him. Satu's rock-cutting lightsaber easily slices through the wall and kills the puppet. Suddenly, a voice resonates from the black ring, declaring declaring that the time has come for the resurrection of the ancient king. The ring vanishes along with all the other black rings around the realms, and they immediately reappear on the fingers of the king of the abyss in a separate dimension. As a result, multiple portals open and abyssal monsters emerge from them. The group quickly retreats to the surface to study and strategize how to fight the creatures, but upon arriving, they find dark weather and multiple hordes of the creatures lurking about. Satu immediately asks Safir to transform and fight their enemies, but she reveals that due to the bad weather, she is as useless as Sakura. Alabaster then encourages them to fight the monsters head-on, and they defeat many of them. But after a while, Satu's strength wanes, and she realizes there is no end to the creatures, so Alabaster creates a distraction before initiating a retreat for the party. As Satu tries to catch her breath, Alabaster alerts the group upon seeing a massive portal with hordes of abyssal orcs pouring out. He admits that the Abyss King has been resurrected. He falls to his knees, declaring that he has lost the bet because Satu cannot defeat the Abyss King without the fifth ring. Suddenly, Satu senses the Abyss King and panics, urging them to flee and try to find the Earth Ring. But Alabaster tells her it is too late because there is nowhere they can go where the Abyss King won't find them. Not entirely losing hope, Alabaster opens the door to transport the rest of them back to Earth. But when a monster tries to eat him like a chocolate bar, Mars protects him. The sage then apologizes that things didn't go as planned, so he asks Satu to release the girls from the ring's fate. With that, he teleports them back to Earth and stays with Mars to defend against nearby monsters. After being transported to Earth, the princesses try to live normal lives and dress like ordinary humans. Fortunately, the humans think they're cosplaying, so they don't take it seriously. Once at a restaurant, they discuss their options with Satu, saying they have no leads on how to get back to their world, and he agrees with them. Some of them are very optimistic, believing their nations will be alright, but Safir, the spoilsport, brings them back to reality. Even so, Granart says she hasn't given up hope, but she's also considered the worst-case scenario. She then scolds Safir for having an appetite despite their situation. Seeing how quickly the water princess devours sweets, Satu laments his lost wallet, but Haimey promises to help him. Safir admits her frustration with their situation and vows not to give up on finding a way back. Satu asks her how, and she says they simply have to find stress points using magic. After a day of searching, the girls take a bath in a hot spring. Granart then declares that her new goal is to have many Nekomimi successors, while Nefrightes vows to touch the grass. Haimey is then reminded of her goal, which is to advance her relationship with Satu by being told that she promised him. Later that night, the other princesses stay at Haime's apartment while she stays with Satu. Worried, he asks her how she'll manage, but she reveals that Alabaster had sent her a letter and some money in case things went wrong. Coincidentally, the whole affair happened during summer vacation, and after returning to Japan, Satu and Haimey resume their studies. Haimey, who had lied about traveling abroad, explains to her classmates that she got into some trouble, so she returned to Japan. As for Satu, she sighs because she never expected to go back to school. Days pass, and Nefrightes gets used to the city library, while Granart befriends many of the neighborhood cats, unlike Safir, who stays home and is constantly lost in thought. One night, Satu sneaks into the woods and laments his situation, but Haimey follows him and asks why he keeps going out at night. He confesses that he doesn't like the princess's fate, and Haimey then reminds him of Alabaster, asking him to release them from their destiny. She embraces him and tells him to find happiness with her. Satu pushes her back, and as he's about to say something, a bright light suddenly emanates from the nearby shrine, and a little girl falls out. She gets to her feet and calls Satu the Ring King, saying she's been waiting for him for a long time. But seeing Haimey clinging to him, the girl turns away to give them some privacy. She is quickly summoned again and reveals herself to be Amber, the protector of the Earth Ring. Surprised, Satu asks if the Earth Princess has been in his world all this time, and Amber explains what happened after the final battle with the Abyss King. Back then, the dwarves created her in the subterranean depths of Edenoken and bestowed upon her the Earth Ring, a replica of the dwarf princess's body that would withstand the test of time. At that moment, she approaches Satu and offers to join forces with him so that he can stop the Abyss King. But to her surprise, Haimey yells at her to stop. She cries, saying that her world, Arnelus, is finished because the King of the Abyss has returned, and that's why they were sent back to Earth. So there's no reason for Satu to return, knowing that the King of the Abyss has already awakened. Amber tells Satu that she'll be waiting at the sanctuary in case she changes her mind. The following night, while the group is having dinner, Granart complains about being bored. She mentions that Nefrightes and Safir feel the same way. Safir then asks where Satu and Haimey went last night, so Haimey lies to them, making no mention of her encounter with Amber. Later, after the princesses fall asleep, Satu confronts her for not telling them about Amber, but Haimey expresses her concern, unsure if she can defeat the King of the Abyss. She says it's best if they stay on Earth. Meanwhile, Granart, who isn't asleep, listens attentively and isn't surprised by Haimey's decision. The next day, on their way to school, after Haimey drops Satu off, Amber startles him by appearing from the bushes. He then informs her that someone came to the shrine looking for her, but he was simply searching for happiness. Later that night, after school, he encounters Satu at a cheap fruit stand, and she advises him to get apples. Later that night, he goes to her shrine, and she appears, informing him that he can return to Arnelus once he takes a ring. The following following night after school, Amber meets him on the school rooftop. After learning that Haimey left early, she asks him if he plans to return to Arnelus as soon as possible, but he tells her that the look on Haimey's face discouraged him. Amber informs him that the ring's power is absolute and that she can seal the Abyss King with it. Surprised, he asks why she's so sure, and she says it's what she was taught and why she was created. Amber explains that the princesses exist to help the Ring King defeat the Abyss King, and it's no easy task. The statement prompts a response from him, and he asks her to call him. Happily, she walks to him and kisses him after seeing his resolve, and he receives the final ring. Later that night, he returns to his apartment, and Haimey leaps upon him like a thirsty woman after seeing the monster within him. She then notices the 5th ring on him, and he informs her that they will be returning to Arnelus. Instantly, she bursts into tears, worried that he will die in his world, but he reminds her how she sacrificed decades of friendship to fulfill her duty. Satu goes on to say that despite Alabaster's wish for the princesses to be freed from their duties on the ring, she interprets it as the end of the war for good. He assures her that he won't lose and that she's the only one for him. Convinced, Haimey expresses her relief and asks him to fulfill his husbandly duties. So she takes his pleasure in her and tries to take their relationship to the next level. Unfortunately for them, Amber appears, announcing that she has completed a teleportation spell that will take them back to Arnelus. Realizing she arrived at the wrong time, Amber informs them that the portal will soon close, so they should decide quickly. Satu prepares to wait for the others, but to her surprise, Granart bursts into the room carrying the other girls. Haimey apologizes after realizing Granart was aware of how selfish she was, but Granart doesn't hold a grudge. Safir wakes up after seeing the bright light, and once she sees Amber and learns they can return to Arnelus, she cries tears of joy. In less than a minute, they leave the room and head towards Arnelus. Satu and the princesses arrive at Edenokan on Arnelus. Amber searches for signs of life nearby but detects nothing. Then she ignites her gem and uses it as a lamp to guide their way. When they leave the throne room, they find the corpses of Imperial soldiers scattered across the floor. Following Granart's senses, they continue on and eventually see soldiers still fighting the abyssal orcs far ahead. At that moment, Satu's rings come alive because she can sense the presence of the Abyssal King. They watch as the soldiers fire arrows at the Dark Lord, but the Abyssal King effortlessly crushes them. Satu sneaks off to confront him, and Amber quickly points out a hidden path she can take to strike by surprise. Before departing, the princesses offer him their sincerest support, kissing him and promising playful rewards once the war is over. With his spirit burning bright and Magnus in hand, Satu charges along the flank of the horde, fighting his way to face his nemesis. The King of the Abyss greets him with cold amusement. Satu responds with a powerful aerial attack, but the Dark Lord easily blocks it. Then the rings of power speak as they merge into one, unleashing an overwhelming surge of energy. Satu channels it into a mighty strike, attacking with all his might, and the blast of force annihilates every creature nearby. But when the dust settles, the Abyss King still stands, and even the unified ring is astonished by his survival. Exhausted, Satu collapses, only to hear the Abyss King mock him as just another ignorant puppet. Safir despairs and wonders why the prophecy failed, but Granart charges at Satu's shield. Amber encourages him and promises they won't let him die. Meanwhile, the Abyss King lifts Satu and tries to drown him in the void, but Granart attacks the Dark Lord while the others carry Satu to safety. In response, the Abyss King summons another wave of monsters. They fight desperately to hold them off, though Granart is nearly subdued before Amber saves her. Satu tries to summon his ring once more, but his strength fails him and he falls unconscious. When he opens his eyes again, he finds himself adrift in fragments of memories. One moment he's on his school's rooftop, and suddenly, a ring from the abyss calls to him, filling him with excruciating pain as if he were drowning. A hand reaches out from the void, clawing for his life. Then, a childhood memory of Haimey flashes before him, and he awakens on the back of a giant bird. Seeing Alabaster, Satu assumes he has died, but Alabaster corrects him. He looks around and finds his girlfriend safe and sound. Alabaster explains that he created an opening to lure them away from the Abyss King. Mars is also alive thanks to Smaragdi, the woman behind him, who helped them escape during the battle. With the Abyss King wounded, the monsters retreated, granting them a brief respite. Alabaster commends Satu's efforts and reports that every nation is battling swarms of monsters emerging within its borders. Although the situation is chaotic, the nations are still holding strong. Upon returning to the capital, Satu addresses the citizens and makes a renewed oath to save the world. Later, Satu approaches Alabaster and asks why they failed to defeat the Abyss King, even after uniting all 5 rings. Alabaster admits he doesn't know, as it wasn't until his journey with them that he learned of the black rings used by the Abyss King. Amber confirms she had no idea such a thing existed. Lost and uncertain, Satu asks the sage what they should do next. Alabaster explains that before their next battle, they must draw upon more of the true power of the rings, and to do so, Satu will strive to deepen his bonds with the ring princesses, even if it means pushing his body and equipment to their limits. Mars soon joins them, relieved to see them safe. Alabaster then addresses the princesses directly, telling them to seek the strength worthy of being the Ring King's wives so they can stand by his side in battle. With a wary smile, he calls this process wife training. That night, Satu is taken to his wife's quarters. When he opens the door, door, the sight before him makes his eyes spark at the sight of so much sausage. Grenart then bravely tells him to replenish his energy. The mere thought of spending the night awake stirs Satu's brain so much it nearly fries his caveman circuits. The next day, Satu walks with Haimey through the tranquil capital. She shares that she too has begun her bridal training and tells him to rest easy while she gives it her all. She leads him to her parents' grave, where she gently lays flowers. Haimey tells him that her parents died protecting her when she was little and that she has a younger sister somewhere in Arnelus, but she doesn't know where. Satu's hands. She heads to the tomb, calling him her husband and thanking him for helping her return home. Unbeknownst to them, Alabaster and the other princesses have been silently listening nearby. Finally, Alabaster breaks the silence and tells Haimey that her magic teacher will soon be arriving. And just then, speaking of the devil, a much younger mage appears, introducing herself as Morian, Haimey's younger sister. This brings us to the end of today's video. If you liked it and want more, comment more, and I'll get to work.